Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie and TV discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Fortress, and joining me today, he's been on the road, so you know that's a bit of a bad omen. Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
I would consider myself more of the angel.
Yeah. And they tried to play the switcheroo when he was a baby, but they gave him back after he wouldn't quit talking about the Blob, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and there's really no wrong time for an apocalypse.
No, I mean, hey, apocalypse now, apocalypse later. It's just going to happen eventually. You just got to wait on it.
The worst candy ever for Halloween.
Apocalypse now and later. Well,
that's terrific.
The first, like the outer coating of that is syrup of ipecac, so you just throw it up right away. But the rest of it did get into you, so you're pooping it out later. So I think that's what we're.
Well,
happy September, everybody.
Somebody rushed right out to the copyright office with that one.
We can do that, but
just kill the joke too.
We can do it before the show airs. Well, we're talking about Good Omens this week, everybody, because our folks over at patreon.com/HMP, where you get the pre-show, post-show, and Dinger Zone have voted on all of that kind of good stuff. It was a tight one. It was a tight forever. No one voted for Cursed, so we can just, Cursed is indeed cursed. We're taking that off of the plate.
Which one was Cursed?
That's the one that's based on a Frank Miller story.
So in third place there with a couple of votes as opposed to the 0, we've got Wheel of Time coming in at 19%. And boy, oh boy.
Bullet dodged.
We were necking it out here, man. It was tied forever and a day for Good Omens and The Witcher, but Good Omens won out just by a tiny little hair there. And of course, if you want to be one of the people that votes on all of these things and all the fun stuff that we do, head on over to patreon.com/HMP. Like I said, get all those good stuff and an HMP nickname. While Sean was on the road, we do have 2 new names, but we're going to go with those next week, give him a proper time to do. We want you guys that, when you support the show over at Patreon, we want you to get the full treatment,
You know that I like doing my diligence on this.
We're not halving it for nobodies. So we'll wait.
No half measures, Walt. No half measures.
We will we'll get to that next week and everything. But if you would like your name added to that list as well, patreon.com/HMP. We'd like to thank all of you folks for continuing this month after month. And if you can't do that, if you can't support us over at Patreon, at least drop on down to the iTunes, give us a 5-star review, aka Humdinger.
It's
been a while since we've had one of those, people. Let's get on it. I know all of you haven't reviewed this show. It's impossible to do.
Come on, you dirty babies.
Yeah. And by the all right. So I'll put it to you this way. Next week, I've got a little bit of information, a little dirty baby information to drop next week. So just that's a little teaser. That's a little
I'm
teaser.
excited.
So
I don't even know this.
How am I going to sleep all week now with that hanging?
Well, do your best. But let's go ahead and get into
Screaming
it, boys.
Screaming in the middle of the night like usual.
That's how I do it. Waking up going, no, another day? This is no good. Here's the trailer for Good Omens.
I am an angel. You are a demon. We're hereditary enemies. Get thee behind me, foul fiend. After you.
Armageddon's days away, and we've lost the Antichrist.
We have to work together.
We have nothing whatsoever in common. I don't even like you.
You do.
If we don't find him, it'll be the war to end everything.
Adam, where are we going? The end of the world. It's not far.
The Earth isn't going to just end itself.
The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are being summoned. War, pollution, famine, death.
Who exactly summons them?
Not my department.
The end of the world starts here.
You don't get tornadoes in England!
We do today!
The boy, he's coming into his power.
You sure?
Would I lie to you?
You're a demon, that's what you do. We're doomed. Welcome to the end times.
It's nice knowing you.
We can't give up now.
Start the war.
There doesn't have to be a war.
Of course there does. Otherwise, how would we win it? Last great battle between heaven and hell.
To the world. To the world.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Good Omens. You know what time it is. Oh, Bruce, what do we got this week?
Well, Neil Gaiman is squarely considered a master comic book writer, but he also has a whole other world of books and works out there to enjoy. And Terry Pratchett, well, he's a mainstay of British humor, right up there with Douglas Adams in the pantheon. And personally, I probably prefer Pratchett, but that's just a matter of taste, I suppose. Now, of course, Gaiman and Pratchett, well, they worked together to produce Good Omens, which was published in May 1990. But the story of Gaiman and Pratchett's relationship is kind of a tidy one, I would say. Gaiman was working on a piece of nonfiction, a biography of Douglas Adams, which is almost a little too convenient if you ask me. And he sent a draft to Pratchett for the feedback. I guess Pratchett liked it or something, and Neil Gaiman felt encouraged to pursue being a novelist instead of sticking with nonfiction and or journalism. I did read that it also happened to take Terry Pratchett 8 months to respond to Gaiman, so I kind of wonder what was going on in his head at that point, you know? But I also read that initially the story was maybe going to be a parody of something called William the Antichrist, which sounds like a hoot and a half. But speaking about Pratchett and the decision to collaborate on a novel, Gaiman had this to say. Although neither of us ever counted, Terry probably wrote around 60,000 raw, and I wrote 45,000 raw words of Good Omens. With, on the whole, Terry taking more of the plot with Adam and the them in, and me doing more of the stuff that was slightly more tangential to the story. Except that broke down pretty quickly, and when we got towards the end, we swapped characters so that we'd both written everyone by the time it was done. It was indeed plotted in a long daily phone call, and then we would also post floppy disks back and forth. That's the end of the quote. And yes, you heard it here first. Good Omens may have been the last collaborative, sacrilegious, apocalyptic comedy that was written by floppy disk. Can you guys imagine that? No Google Drive, no Dropbox. If you wanted to write collaboratively with somebody in 1989, you had to exchange floppy disks in a Tesco parking lot like some kind of creepy old knots. Now imagine a police sting in which they apprehend Gaiman and Pratchett. They call in their computer forensic specialists. They decode the encrypted floppy, and all they find is the first draft of a chapter about a guy having a toxic relationship with his houseplants. That kind of thing won't get you sent to jail, but it might get you institutionalized. Not that there's anything wrong with it. But speaking of toxic relationships with houseplants, Adam, do you have a list?
If that connection, common connection wasn't enough for everybody, let me sell everybody on this new Amazon's other fantasy show, because this sucker's got everything. We've got a good angel, a bad angel, complete with demon eyes, which look corny, so keep those sunglasses on. We've got Switching Babies, The Winking Game, Nick Offerman, Dick Turpin, almost Dick Gunfighter. We'll get there one day. We got Michael McKeon, who has my favorite quote of the entire first 2 episodes. How many nipples do you have? We got the blackest eyes, a doll's eyes. Plant Intimidation. It's a Neil Gaiman joint, so you guessed it. There's a bookstore. We got angels pretending to buy pornography. Ice cream chomping. No one suspects this Spanish Inquisition. No naked witches. That's a bummer. We got Queen Paper Mache Hellhound that turns into a cute little dog, and the I don't know what I wrote there. This show has everything.
I don't know what I wrote.
It says the cocoa. All right, so the cocoa doth grow old, grow cold. That's what I wrote. I'm like, what did I write there? What does that mean? I'm trying to be cheeky over here, and I forget that I'm doing bits. Okay, yeah, I didn't know nothing about this show. I'd never seen anything going up to it. I think I knew Tennant was in it, and Michael Sheen. That's about it. Outside of that, I don't think I really. And Neil Gaiman.
I'm familiar with the source material. I think you've mentioned to us before.
Yeah, just knowing Neil Gaiman was a guy, and that this was a show that was on Amazon, and that was something he had a hand in at some point. That's about it. Angels. I think
I've spoken about this on the podcast before, but Good Omens was my favorite book when I was younger. It was absolutely my favorite.
Oh,
It's
wow.
the book I've read the most, like over and over again, It's also one of those books where there's so many ideas in it, and most of them are jokes, but they're really complicated jokes that it made me feel so much smarter because I got the material. It's one of those things. It's like when you first, like Bruce, like remember the first time that you saw Mystery Science Theater 3000 and you were like, this is my kind of show.
Yeah. And I think for me, that kind of experience, exactly what you're describing, was probably when I read Hitchhiker's Guide. So a similar kind of idea.
I read this before I read Hitchhikers.
I did not. I did it the other way around.
And so this probably felt a little derivative to you then. The source material.
Yeah, it kind of did. It kind of did, but not that that's bad. I mean, it just kind of did. But I have a different perspective on Pratchett now.
Yes, and I think that as I've gotten older, I still appreciate the book. I think it's a great book still, but it's not my favorite book anymore. I do enjoy it. I probably haven't reread it in probably like 4 or 5 years, but I still really like the book. And so when I heard they were making a show, I did what everybody does when that happens, which is, oh boy, here we go. But then when you hear, oh, that person's involved in it. Oh, Neil Gaiman is actually involved in this show. Oh, Terry Pratchett wrote notes about this. Like, all of these things, it boded well. Like
Gaiman's listed as the writer, at least for these 2 episodes. Yeah.
For all the episodes.
He
wrote every episode.
I swear I read he was listed as showrunner.
I think he is.
Wow.
I think he is the showrunner.
That's
to
a big
show.
deal then.
Yes.
And so, he once this hit on Amazon, I watched all of it immediately, and which is a shame because it kind of does a disservice to the material when you're watching something that's this dense,
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, that's for sure. In these first 2 episodes, it was just like, oh yeah, this would definitely be a better paced out show instead of just throwing 10 episodes, 12 episodes at that first 2-3 viewings. That'd be too much.
Right. So when I first saw this, I was like, well, this is good, not great. And I kind of just left it at that. But rewatching this series and watching these first 2 episodes and taking my time with it, quite honestly, I was like, you know what, this is far better than I gave it credit for when I first saw it. I think it's very well done. The problem is that this show has the same problem as what is that movie Stardust that we reviewed?
Yeah, the Neil Gaiman movie.
Right, from so many years ago. Like that movie is a very good movie. It's just it's not great, and that's kind of what the deal is with this show too, is that it's a good show, not a great show. And it's something where like it's never going to have that Princess Bride following, but the people who like it are really going to like it.
Yeah, the Princess Bride thing is a tough one to duplicate. I mean, there's not even like anything to compare with that one. But Good Omens, I could see it having a pretty solid following here. The casting was such a big, strong thing. I think you already kind of mentioned that a little bit before, Adam, but these 2 leads, I think, are like now when I go back and read the book, these are going to be the headcanon for these 2 leads. Like,
that's a good point.
I kind of formed sort of more generic characters. Like not like some people who get very specific images in their mind of what a character should look like, but I did kind of have my sort of vague outline, which was different than Michael Sheen and David Tennant. But once I saw those 2 in character for these 2 episodes, and that's about all I've seen. I think I watched 3 episodes when it first came out, and then I didn't finish it. Then I just revisited the first 2 here. But now seeing those 2, I can't picture anybody else as the angel and the devil there. Crowley, and Azrael.
Yes.
God bless you.
Azrael. The way that I always pictured these 2 characters whilst reading was that they look like they're the same person, just one's a bad guy, or one's a demon, or one's evil and one's good.
Yeah, I can see that.
When you first see it, because I think it's even mentioned in the book that they look very, very similar to each other.
That would make sense too.
Yeah.
I think that would make absolute sense. So it would be trickier to cast. I mean, you just have one person do both, I guess.
And I never kind of put it together before, but it is true that Tennant and Michael Sheen they're not the same person. They don't look the same, but there's something very similar about those two guys. Where
similar, but like even so, like take even the characters out of it themselves, like something similar yet oppositely different about them at the same time. Even just going away from the characters that we've seen here, just as actors, it's like they're the same yet different. You're right.
But think of any role that either of these men has ever had. You can replace the other one with the other one, and everything's still fine.
I think I got to go on record as saying I would way be interested in seeing a Twilight remake with David Tennant instead of Michael Sheen. So Stephanie Myers, if you're listening, get on that.
And I would love to see Michael Sheen as Doctor Who.
Oh yeah. I think a lot of people probably
Here's
would.
the thing.
I would do say
he'd low-key be amazing at it. He really would.
Yes.
Like,
I think he makes a better villain, which is why it's kind of cool seeing him here as the angel. But I imagine Michael Sheen needed the work or wanted the job. So I'm glad that he got that job because, somebody somewhere thought that was perfect for Martin Freeman.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
He had to turn it down for Sheen to get it, right? Like there's no...
Probably.
I just don't see that phone call.
Oh, I hope that's not the case. I'm a huge Sheen supporter, though. I think that he's great, and it goes to the fact that he can do anything. Like he can act, he can be in anything and do well in it. Like think of Sheen on 30 Rock. Like he's amazing on 30 Rock.
He was Wesley Snipes. I mean,
he's Wesley Snipes on 30 Rock. Exactly. I'm your settling soulmate.
I like Michael Sheen a lot. I just, to me, I say I like him a lot. I've seen him in very limited things, but to me, this seemed like a role that was against type for him, and I find that to be a lot of fun.
Yes, but that's what works to me.
Oh, yeah. I'm totally happy that he got it, but I feel like I'm not saying, I'm trying to say that I just think that this feels like a role where they had.
Yeah, they tried to get,
They had him so strongly in mind that the only reason he doesn't have it is probably because he had a conflict or something, but didn't want it. And I think that was like one of those strokes of luck where, like, fortunately, Matthew Broderick wasn't available, so we got Michael J. Fox or something like that.
Ooh, that is lucky. That is much luckier.
Yeah. So anyway, I think this is what I'm trying to say is it's kind of a fortunate, like a good fortune in this good omen.
All right, I'm following you there, Leslie. I'm following you.
Yeah, so I wasn't trying to throw any shade at Sheen whatsoever.
Adam, what do you think of this show? You seem to like it.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Like I said, I wasn't quite sure how to go into it. I tend to find I'm kind of discovering obviously Neil Gaiman's work more towards his television stuff than the books and whatnot. But as I see throughout all of these things, I am so picking up on his voice on everything. It's great.
Yeah.
And so I'm really kind of like I see something now and I'm like, oh, that is definitely Neil Gaiman. All of this kind of the character setup, the story setup and everything. I love the different little asides, the whole winking thing that like, oh, she thought I said this. This goes with this.
Oh,
I love it.
Is there a more British joke in this show than the winking?
Yeah.
That whole winking thing, I was like, you will never in a million years see that on an American television show.
And as somebody who's familiar with Discworld, that feels very Terry Pratchett.
Yes.
And also as a person who loved Hitchhiker's Guide, feels very Douglas Adams too. But I like when I'm reading the book, I don't really think about, is this a game thing or is this a Pratchett thing? But when I'm watching the show and I see that, I'm thinking like, that's definitely the person who's a Pratchett fan who's working on the script here. Because it just feels so more Pratchett than Gaiman. Because Gaiman, I love Neil Gaiman. I love his work, but I feel like when he tells a joke, it's kind of like a joke in a Shakespeare play. Like, it's sort of funny after you've studied Middle English for a few years, that kind of thing.
Right. Yes, he's not writing the dingers that go out of the park all the time with the jokes.
He's not writing the Terry Pratchett story about wet boots and stuff like that.
It's the name of the book that the witch writes. That is such a Neil Gaiman joke.
yes, that is a Neil Gaiman joke.
And
like I think he learned. I don't want to be hyperbolic here, but this was really, really early in Gaiman's fiction writing career. And I think he may have, like, quote unquote, learned how to write humor from working with Pratchett on this. I mean, I couldn't imagine.
You could do a whole lot worse.
I know. Could you imagine a more impressive mentor in your first?
It's funny, man, because I can remember as a kid thinking that Neil Gaiman was one of the least humorous writers in the world, who I liked his stuff, but that he had no sense of humor at all. And now that, you can see him write every single day on the internet, and you know that he's actually quite funny. And maybe that just comes with age, whatever. But I think
those
that
pictures from Wizard made us think all of these guys were something that they weren't, didn't they?
Yes,
like that.
Yes,
like that picture
did.
of
They
him.
sure did.
We thought that was that. We were like, we 100% knew Alan Moore lived in
a bog.
He lived in a
bog of
giant
some sort.
toadstool.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I always pictured.
It was just like those pictures informed everything I know about all of these authors and artists and stuff like that. It's like, oh, your picture that I saw for years in this magazine.
Yes.
Tell me that was the day after a Halloween party.
So did you guys, when you were watching this, did you laugh out loud while watching the show?
I didn't,
Nor did I.
but I kind of knew most of the jokes already. You know what I mean?
Well, because you've read the book. Yeah.
I feel I had
not
a
as
couple
much as
of
you had.
during the old the old winking fiasco. I think I had a chuckle at some of that, of just like, oh, this is British as all get out, isn't it? I thought it meant this whole thing. I thought it meant this whole thing. And I love acting all that stuff out. I love seeing renditions. We're kind of retelling the story, and the people acting out or doing these things, currently that, were in their heads or whatever. I love stuff like that. Be it this or like Reservoir Dogs, where he's talking about the flashback scene with all the cops in the bathroom and stuff like. I love when we get in almost fourth wall breaking, I guess.
I've got one more question for you, Adam, and I'll take my answer off air. So because this isn't so much for Bruce, but did this show pass the phone test for you?
This show did, actually, surprisingly, and we'll spoiler alert, one of the other shows that we'll talk about may not have passed the phone
really?
test this week, and we'll talk all about that on another show.
Well, it is a Tony Gilroy show.
Yeah.
Oh my!
So, but yeah, I was weirdly wrapped in all of it, and honestly, I think a lot of that does come from our two leads and the chemistry that they have with each other. When they're on screen together, you like seeing them. They have, a repartee between the two of them that absolutely works. And then when we have like the fun little side characters, like what's going on with John Hamm is Gabriel? Is that the right one? Is that the right angel?
Yeah, he's Gabriel.
Yes. Yeah,
I love him coming through. I love the fashion of everything that he's wearing, because it's almost, but doesn't quite. It's not quite right. It doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. And I love the whole them trying to blend in with society was always just funny to me. That I guess I laughed at that a little bit. I mean, it's a little on the nose, but it's British humor.
Yeah, but also this is from 1990. This is how many years ago is that now? 32 years ago. So
I'm buying pornography. It's
Yes.
just funny. It's like we are so embarrassed of all the things that I love. Aliens or angels, whatever, things that are trying to pretend to be humans, and like, this is my idea of what humans are, and it's all wrong. I love stuff like that.
I've read other books and things that say like people from the Fey lands, or the mystical side of life, they try so hard to fit in, but there's always something just a little off. And I love how they're depicted like just a little off with these guys.
As far as like, what do you guys think does this show look like it costs a lot of money? Sometimes I'm like, this seems expensive, and sometimes it seems cheap. I can't quite put my finger on it sometimes.
I'm absolutely with you. Like it seems almost expensive.
I think Sean. I think that's what we heard. I think that was the death battle.
Guys, I was having a huge technical problem over on this end. Sorry.
I'm just glad you're okay physically.
We just want to make sure.
It sounded like maybe you belched some ungodly belch and then collapsed.
His head turned inside out.
Man, my headphones just started going click, 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 and I couldn't figure out what it was.
I'm having a panic attack.
Do it better now?
Oh yeah, we're way better now.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, what were we talking about, Adam?
Well, we had John Hamm's funny clothes.
Oh yeah, like the not quite fitting in, like
yes.
the way that the angels don't quite fit in. That's a lot of fun, and it's a trope that's been around for a while. But I was mentioning this show, though the book's 32 years old here, so things were maybe a little more fresh back then.
All right, I had a laugh, but it was in the wrong. It's going to be in the wrong context. I don't know that this is what they were particularly planning on doing. But when the Hellhound shows up for the first time, I am sorry, but I am giggling like a schoolgirl because
I love that. I did.
I know you do because it looks like something you would have done in your backyard and been very proud of, and you should have if you did that. If you did that, these are professionals who I think should do a better job than that.
I like it because it was almost like it looks like that on purpose, right? Like
They want
us to feel campy. They want us to feel campy when we watch.
Yes.
It's like the eyes don't even exist on it. They're just nothing. And the teeth, and it's only one angle of the thing, so you know it looks like garbage from any other angle than the one shot that they got it at.
And I'm going to back up a little bit too, but I loved the 3-card Monty with the babies.
Man, that was great.
So good.
Man, like I totally got lost trying to follow which baby was where. I read the book, so I mean they did a great job of communicating just all the chaos. And then I also like it where mysterious baby. So I guess it was the biological baby of the English couple, not the American couple. But anyway, some poor baby just got rolled away and thrown in a dumpster or something.
I was like, dude, are we not going to talk about the third child that's in this scenario here? I hope
go we won't talk about what happens to this child.
All of a sudden, that just turned out to be
it really felt like, to me, what I would compare it to is some of the fun and chaos in the movie Clue. Like when they're all going around the satanic nunnery. Even later, they said a sect of satanic nuns that weren't very good at their jobs.
I do at least like that they throw in the reason why why this other couple is there. How all of this it's a case of mistaken identity, but one that's almost believable enough to where you could go I could see that. I'm sure crazier things have happened.
Are you saying that Pratchett and Gaiman might come up with a tight story?
Oh, if they feel like it. I mean, maybe those boys will learn one day.
How do you think they flipped a coin over listen, whose idea is better here? Because writers are going to clash at some point.
Yeah, but I think that this was a situation where it's like if they clash, Pratchett's the publishers are writing the checks with my name on them first and yours second. So if I really want to, I can tell you how we're going to do this.
I like the idea that
Pratchett was the star at this point in game.
Yes.
They're communicating. I like the idea that they're communicating through telegrams. So it takes way too long and they can't fight about anything because it's just I do not like this. Stop. You need to change what's on page 48.
That's
Stop.
pretty good.
And then sends it off. And it's eventually by the time he gets it, it's 40. Yeah, well, we've been forget that. I'm just throwing that away. Just pretending it doesn't exist.
Well, I mean, it was the 90s.
As they
the
typed
80s,
by candlelight.
The late 80s and early 90s. It wasn't they're going to a mountainside somewhere with a megaphone. I don't like that idea.
Smoke signals.
They were exchanging floppy disks if you paid attention in the comic.
Right.
And we're talking about computer stuff here. To get your mind out of the gutter.
It looked just like the save icon, only it was in 3 dimensions.
Some kids don't know that stuff. I like when seeing those. They go "Oh, that was a real thing." Yeah, that was a real thing in real life. Those little tiny. That's not just a save button.
The famous apocryphal story is a kid finds their parents' old 3.5-inch floppy disk, and they say, "Oh, somebody 3D printed the save icon."
Nice. Let's see what else. Okay, I will say this. I think I lied to you, Sean. I think I had one moment where I looked at the phone, just the one, and it was all the kids together. When they were all kind of just being normal kids and nothing super interesting was going on. I was just I kind of tuned out for a minute because I don't know why I did not care about any of those kids. And the devil dog had not shown up yet, so it you didn't have any interest for what was going on at that point. So I'm just oh my God, I hate all of these kids. They suck.
I may remember the book differently because I'm sure you have a much better memory of it than I do, Sean, but I feel like in the book, maybe they checked in with Adam a few times along the way because here, we just forget about him. Then we show up at 6 days before the apocalypse. And
you've got to remember, was that the kid that got, okay. So that was the demon. That was the demon kid. The other kid was not the demon kid, but I do also like the, in with dealing with the other kid, that the both of them have like, undercover roles in his life where they're both pushing him towards, the light side or dark side. It's just like, no, you should be good. No, you should be evil. Don't listen to that guy. No, don't listen to that guy. I kind of like how that kid's probably gonna they're gonna mess him up in one way or shape or form like that, I think.
Yeah, that kid's definitely going to be messed up. He just won't have any power to destroy the world with his anger.
It's just he's an impotent rage. Just I hate all of you.
He's just going to end up kicking a vending machine for taking his nickel or something.
Yeah, been there. I don't know what else. Any other kind of things that pop? Because that's the thing.
Do you think you're going to continue watching this or no?
If we decided to cover it on the show, I'd watch it enough with. Yeah, I think I'd have a little excitement for it. I wouldn't be angry at it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
If you said, "Hey, let's cover the rest of this," I don't know how many episodes are within this season itself, but if you said,
I think it's 6.
Oh well, shucks, 6. Yeah, I mean, I'd finish 6 out. Piece of cake. 10, I'd have to I'd start it and then maybe once a week, kind of come back.
I'll be honest with you. I don't remember. They could be more than that, but I seem to remember it being just 6.
It's 26, but one of them is a Christmas special.
Oh wow.
Well, that one's fine then. I don't.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 6
I
episodes.
think I plan to finish watching it. Yeah, I think my experience with it this time around was much better than what I remembered from.
Yeah,
I just tried to watch it, similar to what you.
Mine too.
Oh, Frances McDormand is the voice of God. I like that a whole bunch.
Pretty great.
I don't know why when she comes on to something, I'm happy. I'm happy when Frances McDormand's in anything. I don't know why. I like that lady.
What about just the humor in general? Is the humor working for you, Adam, beyond the wink? Because one thing I would say, from my experience as a book reader coming over to the show, is the book just seems so packed with humor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The show, you can't pack it in the same way, and a lot of it's wordplay, which if you don't have a very involved narrator, it's hard to tell some of the jokes in the book.
Yeah.
But if you have read the books, they put the Easter eggs in there for you, like the fact that Queen is the only song that you're ever going to hear playing in his car.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was another thing that I had a little bit of a trouble with at the beginning, was really figuring out timeline stuff, when and where and how we're at everything. At least the little pop-up cards, which I like and I hate simultaneously. The ones that that pop up and they turn around, they have little stuff on it. I like it because it lets me know. I don't like it because it's a little corny and stupid looking, but I'd rather have it than not, I suppose.
Yeah, me too.
Because otherwise, I don't know what's going on.
I think it's an absolute necessity. Yeah, I could not imagine an edit of this without the pop-up cards.
I don't know how you follow it without them.
Yeah. I just feel like like I said, it may be a more elegant way to do it, but it's fine. It'll work. All right. Well, I guess, short episode. We had 2 episodes to cover, and hey.
Well,
listen,
I'm curious though. I'm still super curious about how this show could possibly relate to Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, well, thank you, Bruce. I have a prepared statement.
Huh.
Hi, Mr. Stallone. Bo Brasso was in the marketing and promotions department for Good Omens, which means he's in a terrible department, because no one anywhere ever talked about the show. No one at work, none of my friends or family or anyone anywhere ever has ever spoken about the show. Maybe it's one of those fake jobs at Amazon, sort of like there's a department at the Cracker Factory that calls itself clearances, and there's no less than 35 people who work in clearances, and the rules to clearances change every single time you ask them the same question. It's a fake job. Or maybe it's because it's Amazon. Everybody knows what Amazon is, and why in God's name would they need to advertise at this point? There's not even a competitor to Amazon. And before you start saying to yourself, wow, Sean, it's like you've never heard of FedEx or UPS. Maybe you can remind me of the TV show that either of those companies produced and aired to go up against Lord of the Rings. From FedEx, The Priority of the Orange Tree. UPS brings you The Winter Night Trilogy. I don't see it. I don't mean to speak ill of Bo Brasso. I'm sure he's just as good at his job as anyone else at Amazon. So maybe the problem is with leadership. As I've said before on this show, I always think of Amazon as the Burger King of streaming services, and I'm not sure why that is exactly, but I just don't know anyone who's super into Amazon streaming. I know plenty of movie nerds who love HBO Max. Star Trek nerds love Paramount Plus. Poor people who have no options like Netflix, and weird, creepy adults love Disney Plus. But Amazon, nobody loves Amazon, and they don't care because they're Amazon. It's sort of like when Sony re-released Morbius back in the movie theaters 2 months after America had already said, we've all decided we don't like this, and by extension, we're not very fond of you either. Now, I'm not sure. No, I'm sorry. I'm sure there were low-ranking people in that room who said re-releasing Morbius is a really bad idea. We shouldn't do it. And then those people were fired and shot on their way to the parking lot, because if you're going to kill a bunch of people simultaneously, a parking lot's a really good place to do it. Basically, all you need is a dump truck and a garden hose for cleanup. Yeah. Look, I don't know how they do things over at Sony, but they clearly don't know what they're doing. They're making a Kraven the Hunter movie, for God's sake. But Bo Brasso has nothing to do with any of that. He's in the marketing department. And Mr. Stallone, he's worked with you several times, working on the marketing on movies like The Expendables 2 and Bullet to the Head and Escape Plan. And as someone who has seen one of those three movies, let me tell you, he did a great job, because I've heard of all three of those movies. I didn't want to see any of them, but I know they exist. And I know of that thanks to the tireless efforts of Bo Brasso, this week's Stallone Connection. I hope to hear from you soon. Your friend, Sweet Shawnzy from the internet.
Crackle was a huge success for Sony, and I'll be doggone if I'm going to sit here and have you badmouth the name of Crackle.
Oh man, show him your tattoo, Adam.
Crackle and Tubi, boy. You ain't gonna get
is
a
it
better
a
combination than
is
that.
it a Joe Dirt 2 tattoo?
I think it's easier to love Tubby than it is to love Amazon.
Oh, without a doubt.
Oh yeah, Tubby's got a lot of there's a lot of fun crap on that. There's and the ads aren't as intrusive as one might think. Anyways,
I mean, if I'm going to watch reruns of Alf, I want the ads.
I wish
no kidding. Get a little
they
break
threw
there.
those 80s ads in there. That would have been amazing. But the problem is they don't throw them like right where the ad break should be. It's like right in the middle of an act for no reason. You're like, bro.
Right when Mr. Drummond is about to say something to Arnold, and then they cut right into the middle of it.
Here's Ty.
What you talking? Here's a commercial for 2 minutes about Willis when you come back.
Awful. Well, that will do it for this episode of Hero Movie Podcast. We'll talk about what we're doing next week in just a moment. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I'd love for people to check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie. Just search for Anime Dad or Bruce Leslie or any of those kind of combinations there on the old YouTube. You'll see me talking about stuff like My Hero Academia, among other things.
Sean, this episode might be a little shorter than our normal episodes, but we're not for lack of material elsewhere, no?
That is true. We have a brand new 30 question show coming out called Andor 30 Questions. It's in the Star Wars feed of our show. So if you listen to our glowing review of Kenobi earlier this year, then you're already going to get Andor 30 Questions.
You're already subscribed.
And it's gonna be a real corker, that one, because I have got a whole lot to say about that show, and hopefully you tune in for that and check it out and check out the show.
Yeah. Next week we are going to be doing. Bruce brought this one up. This is great because we are going from our fantasy month here in September to what did we decide to call October, Bruce?
Super Scary October.
Super Scary October. It's a great name. Gonna put on a couple
like
t-shirts.
Superhero, superheroes and stuff.
Yeah. So we'll be we're going into the super scary stuff here. So Army of Darkness will be our kind of segue. So it's still a little bit fantasy, but now we're getting into a little bit of the horror, and we got all kinds of fun stuff coming for you guys in the month of October. And if you'd like to hear all those things, why don't you be a supporter over at patreon.com/HMP. Pre-show, post-show, and you get to learn all of these fun secrets before everybody else. That is it, everybody. Join us next week when we're talking Army of Darkness. For Sweet Shawnzy Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Goodbye, Marty and Evie.